Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 983, December 19th, 2022. 52 degrees was the high on this day. That was in 1923. It was 29 below in 1983.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Haidt in the newsroom, and of course, the Rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
We have the rare privilege of a guest today, Anna from Matamidi, but she doesn't want to talk, and I'm not going to let her talk. So she just has to sit there and watch how we do this.
Sit in the corner, Anna.
Yeah. Right. Say, you guys remember we were puzzled as to why so many used Teslas were out there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I have a complete answer to that, but a guy named Bob Wolf writes, earlier you discussed the number of low-mileage used Tesla vehicles for sale and wondered why they'd trade them. I saw one listed with 17,000 miles on it and took a look. As I strolled through the options, it listed heated premium vegan leather bucket seats.
Come on, that's not really an option.
Vegan
leather.
Vegan leather. I immediately see that's a government car. I wouldn't want that.
Is it made out of carrot skins or
I
tater
immediately
skins?
I immediately thought this was too precious to be true. A cow that's never had bacon. Upon further review in the link below, I found that vegan leather is not leather, but synthetic fabric that doesn't seem to be holding up very well. Ironically, the previous synthetic eco leather didn't carry the same marketing impact as vegan to the EV crowd. The article went on to state the manufacturer promptly denied any kind of guarantee, declaring that this type of material should be treated with care, avoiding rubbing and contact with products such as hairspray, sunscreen, hand sanitizer, chlorine, and cleaning products. In other words, it would be the worst possible material to sit on.
Right.
In the end, it looks like they're going full circle back to leather that would be tanned with vegetable oil instead of chemicals. And finally, they state, if they were not used in this type of process, these hides would have been disposed of with a significant impact on the environment, but in all actuality, in a supply and demand economy, just make all leather products a little cheaper. Merry Christmas to you and the crew, Bob. That's amazing. These cars have vegan leather seats, and it turns out they're not working out well because vegan leather isn't leather, and it tends to just disappear if you try to wipe it clean.
Right. I was wondering about that because I wonder how many people are going to start turning on Tesla because of Elon's handlings with social media right now. Because I know the stock. I tried to lower the curtain and it got hung up on the chair, but I'm glad we're capturing this for video purposes because that'll really help me out later today. But Tesla's stock has plummeted in the past couple of months solely because of Elon's dealings with social media.
Well, why? Because the precious libs on TikTok or what do you call it? Twitter. They don't like what he's doing.
They think he's mean.
And so therefore his car company's suffering?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the latest?
I did not.
He offered up a survey over the weekend asking Twitter followers if he should step down as the spokesperson. Or no, not as the spokesperson, as the guy that's running the company. And it was a resounding yes, you should step away.
To which he's going to say, great, thanks for the advice. I'm not. I'm going to stay right here.
Well, I'm not following it.
You have no thoughts on that matter?
I have less interest in Twitter than I do in the World Cup.
Okay.
The World Cup was decided by a shootout.
That's very euphorian, isn't it?
It's very fair, isn't it? I thought they were both deserving champions.
They should have given out 2 golds.
Should have given out 2 trophies with which to make obscene gestures. Why am I hearing something? I'm hearing a whining or a buzz.
Is it me or Kenny?
It's just kind of a high pitch.
I haven't even been whining.
You hear it now? Yeah. Have you been Matamidi? Were you born and raised in Matamidi? Really?
Oh, yeah.
Talking to the mic as long as I'm asking you a question.
Yep.
Right there, that mic.
Yeah. Born and raised there, went to St. Jude's.
Well, did we know each other?
I think I knew you.
You're much younger.
Your younger
I
siblings.
bet you did.
Yeah,
Did you go to Matamita High School?
I did. 9 through high school,
What year did you graduate?
1973.
Well, you're a kid. Yeah,
I am.
yeah.
I met your sister over in White Bear, and she's the one that found the first tattoo I did.
Really? Mm-hmm. Lifelong Matamita. Did you grow up on the lake?
We were a few blocks off.
Okay. Did you use that public beach on the East Shore?
Yes.
Well,
Right by your house.
I grew up next to it.
I know.
And my old man always feared exactly what's come true, that it's now basically become a marina and a paved parking lot
Yep.
and very stately restrooms and dressing rooms or whatever. Well, but when I was a kid, and even when you were a kid, that was just a quaint little
Beautiful.
sand parking lot and a nice dock with a diving tower.
I was trying to remember of the place that used to be right before you went out on. And I'm sorry, I have brain fart now with all this going on.
Yeah.
But that's where my dad and I used to go down
Okay.
and fish.
Yeah.
And you could get some pop or chips.
Oh,
or
St.
whatever.
Germain's?
There you go.
Yeah.
What
Little-
side of the lake are we talking?
St.
here?
Germain's was on the extreme northeast corner of the lake. Little
Okay.
green shanty, and you rent a boat.
Oh, and there was a big pond back there. And
Yeah.
the northerns
Cool.
would come through there in
Right.
the spring.
Because that lake is stream fed.
Yep.
I'll be damned. What a small world. Now, I've seen you at all these events over the years.
Now we
You're
got a bear hanging around there.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't that the one your brother called you about
A bear?
on White Bear?
Yeah, you saw it over on the White Bear Lake, right?
I never saw a bear.
No, but your brother called you about it or texted you about it because you brought it up on the show. I remember that.
It's been in my yard twice. It's tore down the
Oh, boy.
feeders. Went after somebody's bee thing.
Really?
Went after the neighbors. And it's around. The bears have
Yeah.
seen it. It's probably about a 2-year-old. It'll be around again.
All are welcome here.
You know, my old man,
I think it's cool.
my old man for years was on the village council,
Oh, yeah.
and I was his campaign manager.
I remember you talking about
Yeah,
that.
and the way he'd operate, we would drive down Matamita Avenue, and he'd see a nice tree, and he'd say, "Go pound one on that tree there." Didn't even bother to knock at the homeowner's door.
Nah, just put up
Just
the
put
sign.
the damn sign up so these motorists can see it.
Were these the same signs that flew off the vehicle?
Now that was a different. That's when he had his $1 million idea to sell magnetic signs.
There we go.
And he made them in the garage, and he put one on the car, and he said, "Give it a test drive." And I went out and I sped up and down 36. When I came back, there was no sign. He said, "How'd it go? Where's the sign?" I said, "It's in the median on Highway 36 and 61." But boom.
Didn't hold up very
It didn't.
well.
Wasn't
No.
very good.
If you had Halloween back there, you took your kids trick-or-treating, but you brought your little
Oh, yeah.
liquor shot with you. You got your little
Oh,
collection
hell.
of-
Well, you know what? That's even true in the sustainable urban core. That's not unique to Matamita. I missed this story over the weekend, and I'm certainly glad you boys pointed it out. 2 months after Abdul Jahabar Hussein and his wife were charged with stealing millions of dollars from a federal meals program, Hussein's Minneapolis daycare center continues to collect public funds aimed at helping low-income families afford child care. And this was in yesterday's Star Tribune. I'm glad they wrote it. Hussein's Future Scholars Child Care has collected more than $1.3 million in subsidies from the Minnesota Department of Human Services since 2018. The department acknowledged last week in response to inquiries from the Star Tribune. His wife, Mekfira Hussein, collected another $68,000 in Medicaid money from 2020 to 2022 at Forever Friendship Adult Daycare in St. Paul.
Wait a minute. Adult daycare? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Altogether, DHS has shelled out, oh man, can
Okay.
we go through this again?
Wow.
Altogether, DHS has shelled out at least $22 million in the past 5 years to 11 daycare centers that were owned or managed by 14 people who've been indicted in the food fraud scam.
Wow.
What did the Somalis figure out so quickly? What the hell? They got off the plane and said, these people are idiots? We
Yep.
can scam them forever?
Yep.
Well, doesn't it though?
What the hell is this?
Doesn't this go back? Because when I read this story, the first thought that came to mind was something that we broached a while back on this. There has to be some type of insider information that they had, meaning someone on the inside was giving them a tip.
No, I'm getting closer and closer to giving my reason for why this is happening. I just never have stated it
Publicly.
in a simple sentence before.
Okay.
Let me continue. Altogether, DHS has shelled out at least $22 million in the past 5 years to 11 daycare centers that were owned or managed by 14 people who have been indicted on federal charges in the Feeding Our Future scandal of defrauding the meals program, according to a Star Tribune review of Secretary of State filings and DHA's payment records. And as much as I've had my fun ripping newspapers, I'm so grateful to the Star Tribune and Jeffrey Matrot for keeping this up. Good for them. You must stay on it every day. DHS officials said they are reviewing ties to everyone charged in the federal meals program, but added they can't ban anyone from participating in the department's programs based on unrelated fraud allegations. So in other words, you're indicted on a fraud allegation, but it's unrelated to your daycare situation, so you can't be denied the application for money.
That's how it works.
Right. 6 of the 11 are still receiving funds.
What a system we got here.
This is solely because these are Somalis. These people have been put through so many equity, inclusion, and diversity programs that they no longer have the capability to say of a Somali that the person's a crook. They can't do it.
That's the place I worked at before.
Department of Human Services?
MTM, it was called.
MTM.
And we dealt with these people that were wanting to take care of our people. Oh, yeah, it was bad.
Though some legislators praised the department for addressing weaknesses later identified by the legislative auditor, others say DHS continues to struggle with attacking potential fraud. Why is it a struggle, I wonder? You're stealing the money. How difficult is that?
Well, and they say the struggle to who? To whom? To who?
The people in the DHS.
But it's because the buck doesn't stop anywhere. They don't know how to combat this.
No, Representative Mary Franzen, the leading Republican on the House committee that oversees daycare, said DHS has not moved quickly enough to cut off daycare funds to the alleged meal program fraudsters. She pointed out that the State Department of Education immediately suspended payments to Feeding Our Future and another sponsor in the meals program on Jan 20, the day feds announced they had executed several search warrants. Meanwhile, 6 of the 11 daycares with ties to the food fraud continue to receive public daycare assistance. DHS officials, including Commissioner Jody Harpstead and Inspector General Kulani Mati, declined interview requests. Is anyone going to be held accountable
Of course
for
not.
this?
No, of course
not.
not.
Is anyone going to get fired?
You know, the question, so adult daycare is something new. Is this for people that have disabilities, that have...
I suppose. I don't know.
Okay.
What do I know?
DHS has released a statement explaining why they can't take action. Keep going, Joe. You'll see it.
DHS officials, including Commissioner Harpstead. Okay, in response to questions from the Star Tribune, DHS said it is actively evaluating the involvement in its programs by all 50 people indicted in the meals scandal. Department officials declined to give details about when their investigation started, but said they have not yet cut off any payments or booted out any of the 11 centers from programs that provide financial support to daycares. So far, 5 of the 50 people charged in the meals case have pleaded guilty to federal criminal charges. 3 of those people owned or managed daycares that received millions of dollars in public funding.
Here comes the explanation, this paragraph right here.
All right. You two clowns over there, you got to keep it down.
Welcome to the club.
In a written statement, DHS officials said they cannot take action against a provider's license or public assistance program enrolled based solely on allegation of fraud in a program not overseen by DHS.
Yeah, okay.
However, if DHS became aware of fraud allegations against a provider, we would begin our own investigation. You're all full of BS, and the buck never stops. None of you people are responsible, and none of you people are behaving competently. Attorney Deborah Hillstrom, who represents Abdul-Jabbar Hussein, said DHS officials have not questioned any of the payments to future scholars' child care or asked for her client for any additional records related to his billing requests. She said the $1.3 million his daycare received was absolutely legitimate. Well, we don't know that. Let me introduce something that even makes this more terribly complicated. These same incompetent people, taken as a whole, are sitting on $18 billion of your surplus taxpayer dollars. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have an uprising and get that money back and lower taxes, this will continue. Mm-hmm. This is the devastating consequences of one-party rule. These people have absolutely no responsibility to us.
I feel like we're the only people talking in this manner, though.
I'm with Kenny.
Yeah, nobody is saying what we're saying, Joe. Nobody.
Well, the Star Tribune's reporting it, and I congratulate them.
And Joe, think of this.
No, I mean in regards to the surplus.
They got so bold with this type of activity that once the COVID relief money was available, they went bonanza with it. So how long can this be traced back to, this fraud? Daycare fraud, whatever else?
Since the beginning. And the Somalis have a history of daycare fraud.
Right.
Is it your wokeism? Is it your fear of racism that prevents you from calling out the Somalis as the bad guys here?
All the above.
What have they figured out so quickly that they could take advantage of the fact that you would be afraid to confront them?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're worried about pronouns in this country.
No, in this state. Well, you're right, in this country, too. This is
the hotbed for this type of activity here in this state. This is outrage.
Attorney Deborah Hillstrom, who represents, I read that. In the meals fraud case, Abdul-Jabbar Hussein and Mekfira Hussein were indicted for falsely claiming to feed as many as 5,000 children a day, and we didn't confront them.
No, they're doing it.
Through their nonprofit Shamisa Hopes. Well, the prefix is right, Shamisa Hopes. Obtaining about $8 million in federal funds.
Wow.
The charges allege most of the money was diverted for their personal use, including paying off the mortgage on their Shakopee home.
A lot of the rest of the story just reiterates what we've already learned, with a whole bunch of phony explanations thrown in from people who should have been watching over this, including the auditor's office.
My God, we're in trouble.
Oh, yeah. No, we've been in trouble for a long time. We're just finally figuring it out.
The people of this state have to take action. We're being robbed, hoodwinked, and fleeced.
But again, by whom? Who's going to take action?
Well,
everybody that holds office right now is a liberal.
Well, there's a Republican legislature.
Well, okay, true.
I mean, half of it, isn't it? Half. What do we got? Half the Senate or half the House?
Well, not for long.
Yeah.
It's really uplifting.
Well, while you still have while you still have your own money, and all of it has not been taken yet, get out to EcoFund and do your Christmas shopping.
I'm going to go to my credit union and see what I've got left.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Get the money you have left and get out to EcoFund Motorsports in Forest Lake and Burnsville for the greatest Christmas gifts you could possibly want. All electric bikes, $200 off. All scooters, $100 to $500 off. And, they actually have to be responsible to somebody. They audit and everything. They can't. They just can't.
No.
Yeah. It's a winter sale. Over 100 youth ATVs and dirt bikes in stock, ready for Christmas morning. The electric fuel-injected golf carts are $1,000 off. There's full-size adult ATVs with winches and steel snow blades. 0% interest for financing for 1 year on all products in stock. Clothing, helmets, apparel, great service. These are really great people. They've been with us from the beginning. It's EcoFun Motorsports on Highway 97 in Forest Lake, immediately west of 35E. And in Burnsville on the service road near County Road 42, EcoFunMotorsports.com.
Here's a man who spends hours in hardware stores, sifting through the nuts and bolts of life. Joe Souchere.
Tragically hip.
I love this one that he did.
So, I didn't think I had a Seafoam story, but then I realized I did. The Wrenching Nephews got my other snowblower, the little bastard. It's a single stage. They got that thing running exactly 12 months ago. It had been sitting around for a few years, hadn't used it. They got it running. They put Seafoam in the tank before we put it away, and I dug it out over the weekend. And I thought, oh, this is going to be dreadful. She started on the third pull, and they reminded me that they had put Seafoam in the tank. So it's just another victory for using Seafoam. You don't have to drain the gas tanks anymore if you use Seafoam. Seafoam lets us live our best lives, the lazy life, the life that lets us just, one of those deals. And thankfully, we can find it anywhere. I don't care if the convenience store is closed. Go over to the NAC hardware store. If the hardware store, go to the grocery store. You find this stuff everywhere. Truly a wonderful product in a world of bad gas. The best thing going for us, Seafoam.
Let's recap. Go ahead. Yeah, I love that. Tragically Hip, recorded in about 2016.
If the lawyers are listening, it's Dylan Height, recorded in September.
Let's recap. We have $250 million food fraud scam involving Somalis. That was preceded by some daycare scams involving Somalis. And now we're learning that Somalis involved in the food scam are still receiving money for their daycare scams.
Right.
And we have yet to hear a word from anyone on high.
Mm-hmm.
But the oversight falls under two different government bodies, correct?
Right. Department of Human Services and Minnesota Department of Education.
And
Right.
if you remember, during one of the debates, this was brought up between Jim Schultz and Keith Ellison. And Ellison said, if reelected, his office will prosecute this to the fullest extent of the law.
Well, he's lying.
Of course he is.
The problem here is that we're governed by a fellow, Walls, with just no depth to him, no substance. A responsible CEO would be stepping forward and saying, this is unconscionable. These are my people. I'm going to take responsibility for this. Heads are going to roll. This cannot be happening. We don't hear a word from him. We don't hear a word of apology. We don't hear a word of anything except obfuscation. Well, we can't say anything because the FBI is investigating. We can't say anything because of this or that. These are your people, Walls. They're robbing us blind, and you are too weak to say anything because you would have to be speaking harshly against a community that you would probably consider marginalized. Who cares? The Somalis are the ones causing this ripoff.
You know,
Not all Somalis, of course.
Select
Select groups of Somalis are ripping the people of Minnesota off. And Walls, you don't do a thing. You don't say a thing. You don't represent us.
The Somalian president was in town last Friday.
Yeah.
I wonder if this came up.
It would have been a good chance to ask him his secret. What are you telling these people before they get here? Because, man, are they clever.
Isn't? I think he's newly elected.
Yeah.
And then, like you stated before the break, to make it worse, we're sitting on all this cash that belongs to us, and they're talking about doling it out when they should be giving every cent back.
Because if you don't, that just means the government will grow by $17.6 billion biannually. You will invent programs that need funding in perpetuity. You'll then throw up your hands in astonishment and say, I guess this is why we have to raise your taxes.
And to show what a genius Walz is, we discussed this on both GL a week ago today and the Krabby Coffee Shop. He's marketing to the citizens of Florida, where they don't have an income tax, to move on up to Minnesota and work in Minnesota because we have the money to pay for this, that, and the other.
Or it's going to be below zero for the next 10 days. Come on up. Meet the fellas.
Enjoy the weather.
Yeah. We're going to overtax you and keep every cent of it. It's a great state. Come on.
You know, when you said that, Kenny, a week or two ago, whenever that was, I thought, come on. So I looked it up. He couldn't have been advised that this was a good idea.
Chris, we did the whole hour on this on Krabby, but we put a fun spin on it, and left politics out. But it's all about politics.
Of course it is. But what marketing idiot would say, hey, I got a great idea. Yeah. Let's go to Florida and urge people to move to Minnesota in December.
Where it's warm and they don't have income tax.
Who is, I have the Our Streets Minneapolis gang in mind. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're bothered by this story?
No.
Okay, but we need to know why they wouldn't be. Now, for all I know, they are. But let's, for the sake of argument, conclude that A, they're maybe not even aware of it, and B, if they are, they're not bothered. Let's just play that for an argument. They're not bothered. Why?
Oh, I think it's C. They know about it. They love it. And like I said on the Krabby Show, my move was we got to get a piece of this.
Yeah, how can we get ours?
My idea was we're going to start an ad agency and we're going to rob the people of Minnesota blind. We got to get some money on this, or get our hands on some of this money.
If you go ahead.
I think that's what the streets people are probably thinking. Let's get a chunk.
I think I have a different thought. I think what they're thinking is this is part and parcel to their agenda of completely undermining the way conventional America has worked. The mystery doesn't care if fraud is pulled off, if the fraud is pulled off by the right people who are ripping off the right people.
Sure.
So now the right people would be Somalis, and they're stealing from a bunch of Finlanders and Norwegians and Swedes who naively continue to believe in capitalism and pay their taxes. And the people who have formed activist groups that are products of the failed academy and have absolutely no worldly ability to make a legitimate living probably think this is fine because it helps bring about the ruin of everything that much faster.
And what are we going to continue to see, knowing that there's $18 billion of play money? No one looks at that as, in the activist world anyway, the activist world doesn't look at that as, well, the Minnesota taxpayer has been spending has been overtaxed. They look at it as an available chunk of pie that I got to get some of.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the coexist bumper on your Tesla with its vegan seats, and you have a beautiful home somewhere in Minneapolis, and you've got a couple of kids, but you're just eating this up. You're just eating this liberalism up right and left. You need to wake up to the fact that you're being fleeced. You're being taken to the cleaners. You're going to wake up one day and realize you've been duped. And if you don't realize you've been duped now, you're running out of time to realize you've been duped. We're being taken by a mysterious, what's the word I want? An organization of complicit groups that have resulted in forming a mystery that is undoing the way America has always worked.
Would you like an email from the town council?
Sure. Can we wait?
Go ahead, Kenny.
I want to make something clear about our streets. I don't remember seeing anything in the articles we read and all the research we did about them trying to get their hands on a piece of the state budget surplus. What they were doing was trying to find room in the Minneapolis budget to take care of these sidewalks and whatnot. And from my point of view, they were just making us further dependent on government to take care of us.
Well, and they're also anti-fossil fuels. The part of their agenda would be to eliminate the personal automobile.
So are they going to shovel these sidewalks with shovels? They're not going to use a snowblower or a skid loader with a blower on it?
They won't, but they will expect someone else to.
Right.
Yes, Chris.
Hans weighs in via the town council. This is a decent point because I think this ties in with the story you were going to bring up Friday, but we never had the chance to get to it, talking about fraud in Minnesota. I think the reason a number of groups are not bothered with it is they may look at it as a form of reparations/socialism. I think that's a decent point.
But why should Somalis who've lived here for 10 minutes, why should they be excused if that's the reason?
Because this is what they believe they're owed.
But they're not owed a damn thing.
I agree. I'm just saying that's their mindset.
Well, I have reparations on the agenda today coming up. But I'm not done with the food fraud, the daycare fraud. We are short of leadership. Walls, you must act like a leader. And I just don't think he's going to.
No.
How about
why would you expect him
an
to?
entire new arm of government that only deals with fraud cases in this state?
No, because I know you're being facetious, but they will become as large and unwieldy and burdensome as the Department of Education and the Department of Human Services.
And
Fraud would
fraudulent.
quadruple.
Right. Fraud would only increase.
Right.
Because you're creating another department in which fraud could be manipulated.
The fraud department.
The fraud department is itself fraudulent.
Somebody call the fraud department.
But really, the Minnesotans, as you look around at your friends and neighbors, and many of them are buying this woke BS, is there any way you can convince them how they're being fleeced? Is there any way you can convince them that their tax money is being used fraudulently?
If you had to put your finger on the pulse, in all seriousness, what percentage of the tax-paying public of this state of Minnesota has any idea that this case exists?
Yeah, right now today.
10%.
Oh, that's high.
I was
think
way
so?
high. I'd hope so.
Is that a function of not following the news?
Yes.
Is it a function of not reading newspapers?
Yes.
Not caring. Yeah.
Is it a function of who gives a bleep?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the who gives a bleep part is what needs to be repaired.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the eyes being opened and everything, we all are in agreement on that. The problem is, I keep saying this, if it didn't happen last November, when is it going to?
Right. It won't. You know who's really mad about this? All the Hmongs that came over and went right to work. They're like, what the hell?
We missed out.
And
What the
actually
hell?
follow the rules.
They follow the rules. They work their asses off. They're struggling like all the other immigrants
How
to this
about black
country.
Americans who toe the mark and struggle and pay their taxes
Same-
and
same.
send their kids to school and feed them
Same.
themselves?
There's
Yep.
even, wasn't it the Sahan Journal, that there was even a group of Somalians who were just as outraged about this
Yeah,
story?
That's
There
why
are.
this.
There
That's
are.
why the story came about. It was broke
You're
by
right.
a
Yes.
Somali guy.
You're right. Who refused to partake in it, right? Wasn't that the bit?
Right.
He
Yeah.
said, no, I'm
He's
not.
going, where did they get the money for this car, this house? What the hell's going on here? Yeah, he's the one that tuned us into it.
It's a major example of the Mysterians, in this case, making a group of Somalis less than.
Mm-hmm.
They apparently expect this. They don't have any intention of. It'll be gotten to the bottom of through the federal judicial system slowly and carefully. But there is nothing currently that would prevent the governor of Minnesota from calling a press conference and pounding his fist on the podium and saying, I'm embarrassed. This is ridiculous. This is my administration. These frauds can't continue.
Would that be an admission of guilt on his part, though?
Well, he's probably not guilty of any fraud.
I guess his administration.
But
You're right, Joe. He should be screaming at the Department of Education and DHS and anybody else who doles out money like that.
And then whoever was ahead of the Department of Education 2 weeks ago retired and walked away and would not grant any interviews. What's her name?
Well, I'm sure that
Whatever.
was coincidental.
No, it was entirely on purpose.
How'd you like to be a Somali right now, busting your ass, trying to, like Bush said, put food on your family.
Right.
And now you've got this blanket indictment against all Somalis when it's just a handful of jackasses.
Are you talking about Jan Malcolm?
No, Department of Education.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Her name escapes me, but
Claire Wilson.
that's not ringing a bell.
Okay.
She just retired. Retired Department of Education head about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
A top official from Minnesota's
She walked away and never said a peep.
Okay, I'm trying to find
And
it.
it's her fault. She's got to be complicit in this.
Mary Catherine Ricker?
No. Jesus, God in heaven.
We're
It can't be
trying
that
here.
difficult.
Department of Education.
God almighty.
Chair, head.
Why don't you look it up yourself, you
Yeah.
bastard?
Dr. Hey.
I'm not saying a word till you find
No,
the
you
name.
can't do that to us. The Department of Education.
A number of heads resigned. Among them, the Department of Education.
The head of the story.
And she never said a peep. Just-
Heather Mueller.
Heather Mueller, thank you. It only took a half bleeping hour.
Heather Mueller.
Got it.
And
I think
she's
she
probably
stepped
in
down.
Florida right now enjoying her state pension that you're paying for. But she was complicit in allowing a $250 million scam to exist. I'm not saying she took any money. I don't think any of them took any money. They just are so precious and so full of their brainwashed equity, inclusion, and diversity seminars that they just didn't have it in them to hold a person of a different skin color accountable for criminal activity.
When I looked her up, I pulled up the page of her and her team. Please allow me to read her bio. As Minnesota's Education Commissioner, Dr. Heather Mueller heads an agency of more than 450 employees charged with the mission of improving educational achievement for children from pre-K through grade 12. Adult education and library services. Dr. Mueller works closely with Governor Tim Walz to promote a wide variety of education policies and initiatives focused on closing the achievement gap, supporting high-quality teaching, using innovative strategies to improve educational outcomes, and ensuring all students graduate.
She worked in the Mankato district where Walz and his wife both worked.
Yep.
When she was the head down there. Wow. Okay.
Well, we got a lot of titles on this page, Joe.
450 people.
Yeah.
And the way it had to work is Hussein fills out an application for his feeding kids program, and it comes through God knows the process it would have to go through when it gets to the Minnesota Department of Education, but it ultimately got to some clerk's desk. And they're looking at it and they're saying, wow, this guy fed 5,000 people. He needs $1.7 million. Okay, stamps it. Okay. Yep. And then they have to go to the U.S. Department of Agriculture to get the money. And someone at the Department of Agriculture looks at it and says, geez, these guys in Minnesota are really feeding a lot of kids. He stamps it, or she stamps it. Then a check for $1.7 million gets sent to the Department of Education. That gets stamped. Where does this go? That's routing B3 Section C.
Okay.
So then it goes down to the clerk that stamped it in the first place, and then Hussein gets the money. No one stopped in this whole process to say,
hold up,
where's he feeding 5,000 kids?
I think they did the opposite. They were patting themselves on the back saying, oh, we're doing a lot of good here.
You idiots.
Well, it's in this little office building that some creepy guy with a brown coat keeps looking in on. That's where we're feeding these kids.
I'm telling you exactly why, and this I'm being very serious. This is why you need an estate plan.
No kidding.
From Eckberg Lammers, because you want these people to handle your stuff?
No.
They'll screw it up, and they'll screw your family in the process. Eckberg Lammers is one of the greatest law firms in the metro and western Wisconsin. They've been doing estate plans for individuals, businesses, and municipalities for more than 70 years. Estate and succession planning, business law, business succession planning, because the same way with a business. You got a business, you're going to move on. You got to have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted so the people in getting the business have a smooth transition. especially you small business owners. You have to plan for this. It's no different than a family. You have to plan for it so your family isn't left with a big mess that ends up in the hands of these bureaucrats who maybe the best intentioned people in the world, they can't help but screw it up because there's too many of them.
That's too much.
The right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. You work too hard to build up your company, your small business, your family's pile of stuff. Handle it smoothly with Eckberg Lammers Law Team. Call Eckberg Lammers and make an appointment. I don't care how old you are. This needs to be done. And then you put it someplace in the house where it's safe. And then when you move on, boom, there it is. Call Eckberg Lammers at 651-439-2878 or visit Eckberg Lammers at eckberglammers.com.
Reavers here once again for Hofferman Water, an independent water treatment dealer. Now's the time if you've been thinking about making the switch, because my friends at Hofferman offer sales, service, and rental for Connecticut water treatment systems. That includes water softeners, iron, rust, and odor filtration systems, and, of course, drinking water systems. You get that new system from Connecticut, and you are in the driver's seat, because a new system from Connecticut can do so many things that other water softeners just simply cannot do. It's going to cut down on your salt usage, but that new system from Connecticut, it's going to protect your appliances. Bad water is going to affect almost every aspect of your home. I'm a living example. I had awful water at my previous residence, so I made the call to Hofferman, and boy, I did that, and my showers became better, so did my laundry, and of course, my drinking water. So please do me a favor, get in touch with my friends at Hofferman Water today, 952-894-4040, or just visit their website, HoffermanWater.com. Hofferman Water has been proudly serving the state of Minnesota for over 50 years. Please tell them that you heard about them here on the Garage Logic podcast.
This guy wears many hats, just not indoors. Joe Souchere.
What did Uncle Joe say? I think he said something about putting valuable paperwork from Eckberg Lammers in a safe place. Did he say that?
I
believe
did.
so.
I did.
Yeah, you did. And that's where Rich at Maple Grove Lock and Safe comes in. And just in time for the season, Maple Grove Lock and Safe giving us the gift of savings all month long, 10% in-store and website wide through the end of December on all Liberty safes. Pop on to maplegrovelockandsafe.com to see the whole lineup there. You already know all the basics. They're the best in the business, made right here in the States, transferable lifetime warranties, best fire protection, and then Rich is throwing in professional delivery and installation, which as adults we're obligated to get 10% off the entire Liberty lineup all December, both in-store and on the website at Maple Grove Lock and Safe, 6901 East Fish Lake Road, and the web, maplegrovelockandsafe.com.
Two not necessarily unrelated items that help us account for the problems with fraud in the government. Too many people going to the government from the failed academy.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Joe. I'm going to start with please do not share my name. Just refer to me as concerned employee. I have been a listener for as long as I can remember, and this has been a place of sanity for me as the world has evolved into the chaos we live in today. I apologize that this email will not be as eloquent as many of your emails are, but I will do my best to get my message across. First, a little about me. I am a hardworking American. I have worked as a district employee for 28 years. I will keep my role private to protect my identity. Along with this job, I believe he means a school district employee. Along with this job, I have been a full-time coach for 20 years. I have watched policies come in and out through the years and kept my head down and did my job and kept student growth as my goal. Recently, I was asked to sit on an equity team, which meets once a month. We are asked to watch numerous videos and read articles about racism prior to the meeting. I will list some below. Whiteness. Watch the 4 embedded videos in the article. Deconstructing white privilege. White men. How to discover your cultural blind spots. Watch how studying privilege systems can strengthen compassion. The facilitator opened with the concept of time and how this is a whiteness culture. As they said this, I heard you in the back of my head. There has to be some GLers out there in the school that can push back. This voice of my own questioning nature and internal desire to always push back replied, "Isn't being on time a personal thing? We all have friends who are traditionally late and ones who are always 15 minutes early." The facilitator said it is still an accepted form of whiteness to be on time. My reply, what about other cultures that value being on time as a sign of respect? The Japanese, for instance. The facilitator, where did you get that? They got it from the white colonialist culture. Wow. At this point, I was in shock. Isn't this white supremacy? They said the quiet part out loud. Then another staff of mixed race states, have you heard of CP time? My response, I have no clue what that is and honestly never heard of it in my life prior to that moment. The staff member told me it means colored people time. They all laughed and I stopped for a minute and said, well, wait, isn't that perpetuating a stereotype? The staff member's defense, she did agree. Then I said, it isn't hard to ride the line on this topic because it is buried in stereotypes. Facilitator response, let's move on from time. There is even more I should share, but I felt this intersection told enough of the story. Joe and crew, thank you. I will do my best and push back when I can. So time. What else have we learned is white? Everything's white.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, where do you want to
Grades
start?
are white. 2 + 2 = 4 is white. Time is white. I know a lot of black guys who wear watches.
But how are you supposed to in any way get ahead in life if you continually drum up this kind of stuff?
Well, it's conspiring to keep people down. You can't flourish with this kind of nonsense in your thinking. You just can't flourish.
But how can you think, as someone that's coming up with this type of agenda, how can you think that this is going to be beneficial to anybody?
Can I launch into a sidebar tirade?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Did they really did the person in that story, that email, really use the phrase colored people time?
Yes, according to this email.
Colored people, people of color, how is that any different? And I don't think it is in my mind from the Jim Crow era term colored.
Well, exactly. And no one does more of a disservice to people of color than liberals. They're mean-spirited people.
They've brought us back to the Jim Crow era where it was colored and whites only, colored only. Why are they insisting on calling them people of color, or now, according to what you just read, colored people?
Yeah, these are hypocritical, mean-spirited people.
God, that really bugs me.
A staff member of mixed race states, have you heard of CP time? My response, I have no clue what that is, and honestly never heard of it in my life prior to that moment. I believe the guy. You know why I believe him? Because he hasn't spent his life trying to be woke.
Well, maybe I'm trying to be too woke, but it just does. You know, they finally got us to use African American, which rightfully so, they should have, or even just black people.
How about just people?
Just human beings.
Because Mysterians don't like people.
But yet again, we're just going to continue to cycle through all of this stuff that's not getting us anywhere.
That's the failed academy. Now we turn to the city of New York for the failed academy. Students at an elite private university in New York City are occupying a campus building with the demand that they all be given A grades.
Oh, nice.
The original reason for the new school, that's what it's called, the new school.
The name of the school is the new school.
The original reason for the new school occupation, which began on December 8, was to support striking faculty members who were lobbying for higher wages and better health care. Though the faculty strike has since been resolved, a letter of demands now calls for A grades for all students. It says in part, we demand that every student receives a final course grade of A, as well as the removal of I-Z grades for the fall 2022 semester. The letter insisted attendance shall have no bearing on course grade. According to the new school website, an I grade is a temporary incomplete and a Z grade is an unofficial withdrawal. They want to get rid of those. The letter also states that occupying students demand a refund for the loss of instructional time due to the strike, and that this tuition refund will be proportional to the duration of the semester during which the strike is in effect. Students are also calling for the resignations of the school's president, provost, vice president, and the disbandment of the board of trustees. Other demands include a tuition freeze from 2023 to 2028. As reported by the Daily Caller, students are also demanding for the university president's house to be treated as communal property.
Dean Wormer's house.
Yeah. Assistant Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs, Amy Malson, commented to Fox News on the... And you know what? The conventional news gathering organizations don't report this stuff. This isn't in the New York Times that I could find. It's in the New York Post. It's in Fox. Assistant Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs, Amy Malson, commented to Fox News Digital on the unfolding situation. The university supports peaceful, free expression by our students, and we are listening closely to all of our students' concerns. In other words, she didn't give an answer. She indicated that faculty retain autonomy about how to conduct and grade their courses. There are approximately 10,000 students at New School. Tuition is $26,854 a semester, or $51,900 for a full year. According to New School's About page, About Us, the university is committed to developing students who will have an impact on the world and address the most pressing social issues of our time. Well, they won't be able to because they're miserably failing.
I'm looking at their Wikipedia page. This is juicy.
It adds that this effort is bolstered by the university's Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Social Justice, which is committed to fostering an equitable, inclusive, and socially just environment for our community. Social justice battles have become heated at many universities across the country. In 2021, a fed-up dad pulled his daughter out of Herschel School. Maybe that was for Herschel Walker. An elite New York City private school, and moved her to Florida after becoming frustrated with the focus on race-related curriculum. Harvey Goldman told Fox and Friends First that little children don't need to feel bad about the color of their skin. Well, of course they don't, but they're being made to by these mean-spirited people. They're mean. What do you got?
Would you like the endowment for the New School?
Well, I don't know how they could have one. They're brand new.
No. They've been around for a long time, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The New School is a private research university in New York City. It was founded in 1919 as...
Oh, for God's sakes.
The New School for Social Research.
Oh, boy, this goes back that far, huh?
Their endowment, as of 2020,
103 years.
$393.5 million.
Boy, oh, boy. That's pretty good.
One of their demands was they want their money back for when the teachers were on strike. Do you still have that paper? That was the one I agreed with.
Yeah.
That was the only one I agreed with.
Yeah.
Teachers were evidently out on strike. Students are still paying. They shouldn't have to pay.
They want pay for loss of instructional time.
My favorite part was the fact that attendance shouldn't be factored into your grade.
Right.
That was pretty good.
They want pay, or they want to be reimbursed for what they paid?
Probably both.
Because there's no reason to pay for something if you're not getting it.
Here.
All right.
The letter also states that occupying students demand a refund for the loss of instructional time due to the strike, and that this tuition refund will be proportional to the duration of the semester during which the strike is in effect.
Yeah, that works for me, but everything else was BS.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was a brand new school. See, it's called the New School.
See, it threw you off. It was the name.
Really.
So this is
threw me
the
off.
old New School, is what this is.
This is an old New School.
They went through I'm looking at it here. They went through a rebranding in 2015, Joe. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying
The Suicide Commando said the new wave is the old wave because we've known it all along. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In addition to a new logo, the school announced that it was combining College of Music, New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music, and a new school for drama, pun intended apparently, into the College of Performing Arts. Yeah, good stuff. Send your kid to
The
college.
failed academy is at the root of all our problems. It's interesting to note that Walz, our governor, comes from the academy. I think he was a 4th grade social studies teacher. I'm just seeing a room full of pictures of steam shovels and stuff and fire trucks on the wall.
Is this irony? When I pulled up the Minnesota Department of Education's executive team, which included now...
Departed Heather Mueller.
Thank you very much. On this list of
Hey,
higher-ups...
call Heather Mueller. See if she wants to come on and talk to the fellas.
Hold on one
Nobody
second.
knows where she is.
On the executive team, Joe, is a gentleman by the name of Adash Amuni. He is the Director of Government Relations.
Huh.
Which I find interesting.
I wonder why you need a director of government relations when you're in the government.
As Director of Government Relations, Dr. Adash Umani serves as the primary liaison between the state legislature and the Minnesota Department of Education. He is responsible for monitoring all state and federal legislative activity relating to early childhood and K-12 education in Minnesota.
Is there any listening? I don't want you to spend a considerable amount of time on it. Is there any employee responsible for watching money?
Let's see. We've got a Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Center
Of
director.
course you do. That's where you learn that Somalis couldn't possibly commit a crime.
We have a director of the Office of American Indian Education.
All right.
We have a Human Resources Director.
Sure.
Chief Financial Officer.
You'd think that person might be interested.
Well, that's Denise Anderson. As Chief Financial Officer, Denise is responsible for providing leadership and oversight of the financial, administrative, budgeting, and risk management functions.
Really, I think Denise needs to have a little press conference.
Do you want her bio?
Yeah, who's Denise?
Denise is we know that she's Denise comes to the department with extensive experience in state government financial leadership.
Really?
And has been a part-time lecturer at the University of Minnesota Carlson School of Management, teaching undergraduate and graduate introductory finance accounting courses. She holds a CPA, an active certificate, and earned a master's degree in finance and a bachelor's degree in accounting, both from the University of Minnesota Carlson School of Management.
She sounds very qualified.
Yeah.
And you know damn well what she'd say if you confronted her. That's not my department.
She also serves as the commissioner's appointee on the Teachers Retirement Association Board of Trustees. Mm-hmm. Boy, it's one big super group, isn't it?
It's a big club, and no one takes responsibility for anything. And their ultimate boss, who is the governor, has never said a word. It's a complete theft from the taxpayers of the state of Minnesota.
Boy,
this is theft.
We have 3 different assistant commissioners on this
These
board.
people are stealing our money. I don't think that's hyperbole. These people are stealing your money.
And then when they get caught, they're stepping down. This is a great club.
And they don't have to interview.
No,
that way.
I don't.
Well,
I didn't grant
that
you
person,
one.
That person be not here anymore.
Where did I go wrong?
Why are we
Damn.
sitting here?
Yeah,
Doing a podcast.
no kidding.
Big news, gator hooks are in over 1,000 Home Depot stores
Oh,
throughout
that's
the
right.
U.S., including around these parts. All you do is go to this great website, gatormagnetics.com, click on the Home Depot logo, pop in your zip code, and bing, bang, boom, they'll tell you the nearest Home Depot to your house that's carrying Gator Magnetics, the greatest storage device ever imagined or invented. They're magnets that hold 25 pounds. You have to release a little lever to get them off a steel surface because they hold so tightly with some sort of patented technology that I don't pretend to understand. Something about poling. The poles, magnets have poles. Well, these got a lot of poles. And they're coming up with a steel system, too, a plate that you can put anywhere in the garage or your home and then hang the hooks on that if you're short of steel surfaces. But you'd get everything off the floor. You hang up bags of softball bats, and you hang up tools and rakes and shovels and everything. And the beauty of it is, if you don't like the way that storage looks, you just move it around.
Right over there.
You flip the lever, take the magnet off the wall, and you move it somewhere else until it's perfect.
It's storage on the go.
Oh, it's fantastic. And again, They're GLers. They invented this in the garage. They're going nationwide. They're in 1,000 Home Depot stores, including here in the region. And so all you do is go to GatorMagnetics.com. Really neat website. You can see for yourself how cool these magnets are. GatorMagnetics.com. Click on the Home Depot logo. Enter your zip code, and you'll be directed to the nearest Home Depot that has Gator Magnetics, and you can do that this week just in time for Christmas. GatorMagnetics.com.
You cannot stop him. He'll just make a move. Joe Souchere.
So Matthew Mikulski, we know him as the Rookie, sent a photo of a guy he knows to all the fellas. It went to the five of us, of a guy he knows who received from his potential future father-in-law a pretty neat-looking firearm. And knowing that Matt knows nothing about firearms, I responded, "Is that a Daewoo AK or a 5.56? I have a very similar unit." Rookie responds, "I'll ask." Rookie has no idea.
He has no clue.
No idea. But it reminded me of DK Mags, and it's a firearm you don't see a lot of these days. And if that's what you're looking for in a firearm, DK Mags is for you. They're going to be more than happy to assist you in tracking down and purchasing any firearm or accessory you want, even if you don't see it in the store, don't see it on the website. Give them a call, send them an email, because they can help you out. And on the other hand, if you have something you don't want, and I'm talking single units to entire estates, get a hold of them, and there's a good chance they'll purchase all of those firearms for you. Both DK Mags and Monticello Pawn and Gun, they both have gunsmithing services, so no matter how exotic that unit might be, they can keep it in perfect working order or even revive old iron. You got to check out the website, dkmags.com. And then stop in and see them. DK Mags, they're on Old 8 in New Brighton and up in Monticello Pawn and Gun, and on the web, dkmags.com.
I remember to not walk all over it.
You're doing a good job of that today.
California has a reparations task force.
Oh, boy.
But I believe so does St. Paul.
Appointed by Mayor Carter.
This will be traveling throughout the country, the closest you get to the country's tallest buildings. And the California's reparations task force claims that the state's black residents whose ancestors were in the U.S. from 1933 to 1977 are owed over $500 billion in reparations.
From 1933 on to 70, what?
For housing discrimination.
Oh.
And some activists are now saying that's not enough.
Oh, of course not.
Self-proclaimed grassroots hip-hop organizer Deion Jenkins, who recommended close to $1 million in housing reparations on Wednesday, meaning for everybody, meaning individually, said in a recent interview either they're going to comply or it's going to be a serious backlash. So they're just cutting to the chase in California and threatening to get the money.
Wow.
The 9-member reparations task force formed via legislation by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom blamed the wealth gap in the state on redlining and racist housing covenants that segregated black California residents in the 50s through the 60s. And unfortunately, redlining was common the closer you get to the country's tallest buildings all around the country. Black households have a median wealth of $24,000, whereas white households have a median wealth of $188,000. The task force determined that black California residents are owed $569 billion, or $223,200 each. Task Force Chairman Camilla Moore. Who the hell are these guys? Jesus. Pat, we're on the air. Honest to God.
I will say, it's always my favorite part of Monday. It's always my favorite part of Monday. You were saying?
Cut him a check. That's what he was saying. Cut him a check.
There we go.
Forget
Or else.
the hell with them.
Yeah.
But Joe,
No, I'm done with this story.
you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm done with this story.
Okay.
Only.
Anna, I have to warn you. I was in there last Monday, and I had barely had the microphone turned off when Royce was moving right in and trying to sit down right where you're sitting.
Yep.
So as soon as the music ends, you need to jump up and ski-daddle.
And the beautiful part about the transition between Garage Logic and Monday Night Sports Talk is, even though I've warned Patrick numerous times that we're still recording for the town council, Effenheimers go flying left and right, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So special.
Only because they come to us all the way from Marloth Park in Mpumalanga, South Africa, from the traveling Lymans at worldwidewaftage.com. It was on this day in 1836.
December 19th.
Maria Louise Sanford was born in Saybrook, Connecticut. An extraordinary and popular teacher, Sanford was appointed to the Department of Rhetoric at the University of Minnesota in 1880. After her retirement in 1909, she remained active. Speaking on educational and patriotic topics, she died in 1920. A statue of her, sculpted by Evelyn Raymond, represents the state in Statuary Hall in Washington, D.C. See, I did not know that. I did not know that.
Explain to me what rhetoric, define that for me.
Back in the days before the academy was failed, that probably meant public speaking.
Oh, okay.
That would be my guess.
All right.
On this day in 1906,
December 19th.
Koochiching County was established, named with the Cree word for Rainy Lake. So Rainy Lake is Koochiching.
I didn't know that.
On this day in 1957,
December 19th.
Governor Orville L. Freeman appointed L. Howard Bennett to a municipal judgeship in Minneapolis, making him the first African-American judge appointed in Minnesota. And finally, on this day in 1957, West St. Paul sociology teacher Glenn Holmquist, accused of slapping a male student at a high school dance, was cleared of an assault charge by a municipal court. Holmquist's attorney said that his client's action was justified as an attempt to maintain order and that there should be more discipline instead of the wishy-washy policies parents are advocating today. Okay, how far along?
57.
How far back? 57 is 65 years?
Wow, you just did the math.
65 years ago, we were worried about wishy-washy disciplinary problems.
Can you imagine?
No, you couldn't get away with that today.
Can you imagine if they knew what's going down today?
Oh, my God.
What pronouns did that student go by?
Dumbass.
Dumb and ass. Well, thank you, GLers, and thanks, Anna and Melissa. I hope you enjoyed this, dear.
Or we're sorry that you wasted your time.
Yeah.
Either, whatever's fits.
There's two options, A or B. B. All right, thank you, GLers.
GLers, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button on the Garage Logic YouTube channel, because there we are posting daily content for your amusement. Joe?
What?
And we can also... You can also, for just $10 a month or $100 a year, you can be part of the Garage Logic Town Council, where you'll get behind-the-scenes footage and 24/7 access to archived Garage Logic shows.
Start a journey, not a fad. Kick off your fitness journey with up to $500 off Peloton Bike, Bike Plus, or Tread packages. Choose the package that will take your training to the next level with accessories like our cycling shoes, heart rate band, non-slip grip dumbbells, and more. Join now and you'll see why 92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later. All access membership separate. Offer ends January 8th, 2023. Excludes Bike, Bike Plus, and Tread Basics. See additional terms at onepeloton.com.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.